أعوذ بال... أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, inshallah, we start in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. We bear witness there is no deity worthy worship except Allah. Praise and glory be to Him. That Muhammad is the seal of messengers. He was sent as a mercy to all mankind. May peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, his family, his companions, and those who follow this path until the day of judgment. I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all, dear brothers, dear sisters, and dear viewers. This is the Arab Spring Show with Dr. Abdul Aziz. And today, I think we just an introduction to the Arab Spring. We have our brother and our guest for this show, inshallah, Brother Abu Bashir. And of course, Abu Bashir, I think, is very well known in Manchester. He's an electric engineer like me, and I was an electric engineer as well, but I'm from Algeria, but he did it important. He was older in Manchester than me when I came. And alhamdulillah, then he went through, we met together anyway regarding the, I think the SACRE, Standing Advisory Body Council for Religious Education. We had a very good encounter with the right of withdrawal with from collective worship when it was introduced, Christian collective worship for the Muslim children as well. And of course, he went on business as well, and he put up a very nice shop called the World of Islam, through which he was selling books and all gadgets regarding Islam. And of course, making da'wah, the call for Islam, through leaflets and everything. And of course, he is well known as a speaker and khatib as well, imam in some of the mosques, especially I think he's been doing some, some Friday khutbas and sermon in the Mawlawi Kurdish Cultural Center in Moss Side. And of course, he's married with children as well. I think Bashir is why we call him Abu Bashir, because Bashir, I think, is, may Allah bless him, inshallah, he has some girls as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. How are you, Bashir? Abu Bashir? Okay.
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. Jazakallah for this good introduction.
How is your, I think we have to ask always, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give a cure to those people who have been infected with COVID-19 or any other illnesses. And those who passed away, may Allah have mercy and blessing, give them the highest firdaus as well, and give their parents and their children, their relatives and their friends, patience and a great reward. Ameen. And how is life when we are on this lockdown as well?
Well, I spend it in doing research, and I give a study circle on Islamic history online. On Zoom, sorry, not online, on Zoom, yeah.
Yes.
Once, that's on Sundays. Yeah, so I started from the Sirah, and now we are up to the Crusades.
Okay, mashallah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
And are you recording it as well?
I am recording it as well, yes.
MashaAllah, that's a good material, inshallah. I think the lockdown is a blessing in disguise, what I say.
Yes, everything from Allah is a blessing, whether
apparent
or in disguise.
Wallah, alhamdulillah, we had time, and everybody has ideas in her head. And alhamdulillah, this COVID-19 gave us an idea to put things. And the internet has made the whole, a global village, the whole world anyway.
True, that's true, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. But therefore, I think on Monday we have the second uprising in civil. I call it. People say al-Hirak al-Sha'bi, and I always say it's a civil society uprising more than anything else. You know, brother Sheikh Abu Bashir, we talk about the Arab Spring. I think let's start after. Just give us an introduction about. What is this Rabi'ul Arabi? What is it all about?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulih al-Kareem. Muslims have ruled themselves since the mission of Islam started some 1400 years ago, till the beginning almost, or just the end of 19th century and beginning of the 20th century, when most of the Muslim world was colonized by Western power. By the beginning of the 20th century, there was resistance to the occupation. And by the middle of the century, the 20th century, most Arab countries, if not all actually, liberated themselves from the colonization. The colonial powers were Western powers like Britain, France, Italy, etc., and Holland. Anyway, so we thought that we got rid of the occupiers. Now we're going to develop our countries and move forward.
That's after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, isn't it?
Well, yes, the fall of the yes, that's the beginning
1924,
of the 20th
yes.
century. But anyway, the Ottoman Empire gone, and then it was replaced by colonial power.
Yes, okay.
Right, the colonial power were only interested in really in our market, our raw materials, our strategic lands, and then our oil, not the development of the people there. That's
Therefore,
why
he used the resources. Did he that mean he's used all the resources to develop himself?
Yes, I mean, they've done some development in the countries, and the developments that they did was roads that take you from one border to the other, plus some quarters of the capitals only, and then the rest of the country was neglected. Okay. Anyway, so now Muslims ruling themselves, or Arab leaders, we have Arab leaders ruling Arabs, but unfortunately we were plagued with worse than the COVID. We were plagued by very, very corrupt leaders. The corrupt leaders, they thought that those countries that they're ruling were their own farms or their own properties. So they were only interested in themselves, their families, and their cronies. That led again to a lot of frustration, because people could not move without bribery. They could not get equal opportunities. There was a very high rate of unemployment, and we could see our resources slipping from our hands. We only hear that the Arabs have got oil and other raw materials. We only hear about that, but we don't see the effect of it. It's all going somewhere. It ends up always in Western banks, Switzerland or American or British banks, and the people there's getting poorer and poorer. There was no justice in the judicial system as well, where people are locked up for very flimsy or untrue accusations, or they bribe and they get out. So their life was miserable really for the people for a long time. There has been attempts to remove the Arab leaders, but by other military forces, again from within, and that led to replacing one dictator with another. And it just seemed like a vicious circle. We finished from one bad dictator, the next one that comes that we have high hope in him, he becomes a worse one.
Therefore, it's always because the best organized institution in all these countries is the military. They have money and they have power and they have weapon.
Yes, yes, true. They have power really. That's what it is. They have the power, and there was no parties, no freedom of speech, no freedom of organizations. Anyway, so it just seemed that no matter what we do, there has been attempts really. There has been attempt to remove the injustice, to remove the Arab leaders, but every time it ended up in a very bloody result where thousands of people get killed and many thousands imprisoned for many, many years, and a lot of them disappear.
And that's like the example of Algeria in the 90s.
Well, that was one example of many really, right?
Yes, yes.
Then what happened in 2011 in the most unlikely place, and that is Tunisia. The reason I say most unlikely place, because Tunisia has been very quiet, really. There was hardly any coup in it, while most Arab countries witnessed many coups, military coups. Tunisia was a quiet country. So what happened that on...
It's small as well, it's a small country.
A small country as well. Yes. And people actually, anyway, nobody was expecting anything to come from there.
Yes.
But what happened that in December 2011, in a small town called Sidi Bouzaid in the south of
It's 2010, 2010, yes.
2000,
December 17.
2010, yeah? So,
Yes,
yeah, true.
yeah.
Yes, there was a small-time trader. He sells, called Bouazizi.
Yes.
He used to sell fruits on a cart, right? And as part and parcel of the business, he had to give bribery to the passing by policeman. A policeman would pass by. If you don't bribe him with some fruits, then he will give you a ticket for whatever it is, a fine.
He might confiscate, he will hold the cart and all this.
Well, they don't usually do that. The people usually know it is part of the business. You have to pay, right?
Okay.
So,
right.
So one day, a policewoman this time approached this young man, Bouazizi, and Bouazizi, by the way, anyway, she approached him and she asked for some fruits.
And he's actually called Muhammad Bouazizi.
Muhammad Bouazizi.
Yes.
So this Muhammad Bouazizi gave her some fruits, and not only that, she gave her some fruit, she asked him to take them and put it in her car. She wouldn't even carry it to her car. He obliged. He would put it. But the fruits he was selling was quality fruits. By the time he came back, she demanded some more. He said, "No, I've given you enough. Right, here's a fine. You cannot sell here today." So she confiscated, that's what we said, because he wouldn't comply. She confiscated his cart, his fruits, his stock, and his scale. That's all his capital. So he went to the municipality, to the town hall, to complain. The town hall said, "We can't do nothing about a police officer. You have to go to a police station." He went to the police station, and that policewoman was there. So he complained to somebody. "This policewoman did that to me. I gave her once bribery. She won twice as much. She confiscated all my livelihood." She was listening to that. She slapped him. And other policemen did not defend him. So he was so despair. He despaired so much that he thought there's no hope in this life. He went out, doused himself with gasoline, and set himself alight. And he didn't die straight away. They took him to hospital. The injuries were so much, few days after he died. The people of the town there were so furious. They demonstrated. The police tried to disperse them as usual in a brutal way. But this time, the people did not run away as usually they do in the Arab world, because it happens everywhere, not in Arab.
Because of fear.
Because of fear, and because they are very brutal, the police.
Yes.
But this time, the people didn't. And then other towns heard of the story and revolted again. There were demonstrations. Suddenly, within a few days, the news spread, and there was demonstrations all over Tunisia. It lasted for about 2 weeks, and now the police couldn't stop the people. There too many of them. Then the ruler, Zain al-Abidin at the time, he asked the army to interfere because the police could not handle the people. Mm-hmm. And very strangely, which is not normal, the army said, "No, we were not going to shoot at people, at innocent, unarmed people." And the police couldn't handle the people, so he left the country. He gave up. But before he left,
I thought it happened on the 14th of January.
Yes, mashallah, you've got the dates.
2011.
So he didn't leave peacefully. He made sure he went to the central bank and emptied it from all the gold that is there. And with big airplane, him and his family left the country, and the military set up an interim government. But this thing, what happened, that for the first time in almost 100 years, the people stood up to the country, to the government, and to the police, and to the army.
The idea, brother, Ben Ali, I think when that happened on the 13th of January 2011, by the way, he fled to Saudi Arabia.
Yes, he went to Saudi Arabia, true. Well, they are all colleagues. So the Arab people throughout the Arab world, because of the social media, etc., notice this. And this injustice is the same throughout the Arab world, from Iraq to Morocco.
Libya, all this, so everything.
So a few days after that, after the removal of Ben Ali, few days after that, the Egyptians started similar revolution or demonstrations.
18th of January 2011, yes.
Again, lasted 6-7 weeks. Again, the same thing happened, that the army would not shoot at the people, although the police did, and they killed more than 1,000 people, by the way.
Yes.
Police there, and injured hundreds, and probably imprisoned thousands.
But it's not actually just the police, I think the security service.
Yeah, so what happened that now people were not afraid of the police anymore, and all they're saying, we're going to pay the price, whatever it is, to get rid of our corrupt leaders. The thing spread again to Libya. It was more bloody, but then again to Syria, and again to Yemen, to Yemen as well, right? And then because people had enough, and then they saw some light now. If we sacrifice and if we just fight back, those leaders will give in. Well, Mubarak gave in Egypt. Gaddafi had to be removed by force. It was because he fired at people, and people somehow got armed. The Western government helped them. They fought back. It took about 10 months, and then he was removed. Mubarak removed by the army, although he resigned as well after a few weeks. But now coming to, before we go to Syria, let's talk about Yemen quickly. In Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh, the leader who was there for 20 years, again, a great dictator, just like all other dictators, he killed a lot of people, really. And people did not use arms, did not hit back.
They were peaceful marches and uprising, but it was treated like, I think, with military force and killing everything, yeah?
Right. So there, it was a bit complicated. It took longer, but then he was removed after 1 or 2 years. But in Syria, again, similar thing. People coming out in simple, peaceful demonstrations. Actually, in Syria, how it started, that the people of Dir'a, a city in the south of Syria, started to complain about the governor there. Not about Assad, the ruler, about the governor. Because the governor there was very unfair to people. To go to hospital, to be treated, you have to bribe some official. You have to. So even pregnant women cannot enter the hospital. They're so expecting if they don't bribe somebody in the hospital. So people had enough. So people start demonstrating. We had enough of this bribery. But again, Al-Assad met them with a very brutal military force. In Syria, it's slightly different. There's no difference between the army and the police. They start shooting straight away. So other towns followed soon, and they could see what happened in other Arab countries. And for 6 months in Syria, there was peaceful demonstration. Not a single shot was fired at the military or at the police. But in return, the police killed hundreds within those 6 months. Hundreds of people. They were shooting at people. They could see, the government could see, if we don't shoot at these people, then they will take over, as they have done in Libya, Syria, in Egypt, and Tunisia. So
there were about 22 people killed in Dar'a, yes.
But then within the 6 months, hundreds were killed, really.
Yes, okay.
And yes, and then the first 6 months, that's probably in 1 day, but that is within hundreds of people. Then people found out that there is no way other than resorting to arms. Then they start now buying, smuggling arms, and they had to fight for power. In Syria, again, slightly different there, that the leaders of the army and the leader of the government is from a very small minority in Syria called the Alawites.
12% of the population. 12% of the population
only, right? 10% of the population.
10%, okay.
Right. So population of 25 million, there's only 2.5 million of them. But those 2.5 million have been ruling for the past, now it's more, for the past 30 years. Now they've been there for 50 years.
With the Assad's father and then the son.
The father ruled for 30 years, and then the son now has been there for 20 years as well.
Right.
So from 1970. Yeah, 60 years now. Well, 1970 is 50 years, but they were there. The Ba'ath Party was 10 years before that.
Almost 50 years, almost 50 years.
Right? And because they have stolen so much from the government, from the people there, they've done so much injustice, they felt if they leave, they will be brought to justice, thousands of them. So they felt it was for them a matter of life and death. So there was what you call a stigma there, that it's either Al-Assad or we burn the balad, we burn the country. That means that the Alawites said, we either have Al-Assad as our leader or we'll burn the country. And that's what they did literally. They started burning of the country. They really start demolishing the country. But at one time they were just about to lose really, because the whole people went against them and there's only 10% of them.
No, brother Abu Ashir, just ask a question here. Up to now, there was no external or foreign interference.
No, there wasn't from either side,
Okay.
from the Muslims,
Right.
from the people, or from the government.
Right.
But when Assad lost about 80% of the country, really he has, because those people who are now the revolution, it became revolution, the demonstration became revolution, start getting arms. Some Arab countries intervened and sent them some weapons and some money. Then he lost 80% of the country, and everybody thought it was a matter of days. Then he sought help from Iran. Iran sent them Hezbollah from Lebanon. Hezbollah were well trained. There are tens of thousands of them in Lebanon. They came and they just helped him really, just saved him his neck in the last moment. But then again, Hezbollah couldn't, again, because still few thousand of them, 10, 15,000 against a population of 20,000 Sunnis who are getting armed and trained and getting better at fighting.
20 million, you mean? 20 million?
Yeah, 20 million the Sunnis.
Yes, Sunnis, yes.
25 million the whole population,
Yes.
2.5 million Alawites, and the other 2.5 million Christians and Druze.
Druze, yes.
Yeah. So 2.5 million Shia Alawites, and the other 2.5% there's Druze group there, and Christians. The Sunnis were 20 millions. So Hezbollah was about to be defeated as well. Then Iran put its weight behind it and sent to Syria within years, not straight away, but sent to Syria first a lot of money, a lot of weapons, and then Shia militias. The Shia militias were from Iran, from Iraq.
Militias, is it Shia militias or Revolutionary Guard?
No, the Revolutionary Guards were only experts and what you call it, the leaders of the groups.
Okay.
No, because they will be captured. They sent Shia militias from Iraq, from Afghanistan, from India and Pakistan, but all controlled by the Revolutionary Guard, this Qasim Soleimani and who died last year. Yes, because they couldn't send really. They found it cheaper and less problems for them.
That's the human cost. They reduce human cost. Cost. Yeah.
Yeah, and then those losses cheap, etc. Right, poor
because
people.
one of the problem we have got in all those conflicts between brackets civil wars, you find always 90%, 95 to 99% who pays the price in their lives and everything are civilians.
Well, definitely, in Syria is really only civilians. It's 100% civilians. But on the other side, I said the Iranians didn't send their army, but they sent, as I said, they recruited 20 groups. They called them. One is called the Zainabites. One is the Hashemites. One the Abbasids, etc. Different Shia names. They've sent so many groups there, as well as supporting Hezbollah. And then Al-Assad himself as well became so vicious. He, in 2013, he bombarded the city of Al-Ghouta, which is the outskirts of Damascus, with chemicals and killed thousands of innocent people, mostly children. Why mostly mostly children? Not that the chemical distinguish between young and adults, because the children, they could not, once they sniff the chemical, once they die. the others can, a lot of them survive, but a lot of them, really, a lot of the children were just as melted ones. And in one day, about 3,000 people killed, mostly children. And he did this again 2-3 months after. The Western world was furious about this, and they warned him, and they're going to hit him, but they did nothing really. All of the Western world, NATO, etc., helped the Libyan revolution, but they did not help at all the Syrian. Actually, they were a hindrance to the Syrian revolution.
Well, why they haven't helped? Why?
Why? Because of Israel. That's the truth. Because of Israel. Because Libya is too far from Israel.
For the security of Israel, therefore, it's better to have a Syrian authoritarian regime there than actually to have a new government or thing. Yes.
Yes. To them, is any Arab dictator is better than freely elected leader. Because an elected leader would fulfill the wishes of the people, and that's to fight Israel. As simple as that. People, other Arabs want to liberate.
Because of the Golan, the Golan Heights occupied so far.
The Golan Heights and Palestine, all of it is occupied, really, right? So the Israelis would not allow any fair government within their neighborhood, really. That's Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine. They wouldn't allow that, and Jordan, of course, right? So the Western people were watching most of the time. And not only that, actually, we thought they helped. But then looking now at Egypt, they're helping the one who has killed off the democracy. In Libya, they're helping the one who is fighting democracy. So really, they helped initially, and then they just, why should they help? Because
the question is, suddenly there was a group called ISIL. Where did it come from?
The what? Sorry,
this ISIL, Islamic State of Levant,
ISIS.
Yeah, the ISIS, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, again, this is one of the mysteries of the war. So now, unfortunately, the Syrian groups who were fighting the government, they got divided among themselves. Those divisions were not natural divisions. It wasn't the South against the North or the East against the West. It was which Muslim government are supporting them, right? So the Kuwaitis, not the Kuwaitis, the Qataris were supporting one group. The Emiratis from Emirates were supporting another group. The Saudis supporting another group. The Turkish supporting another group. And those have different agendas. They started fighting among themselves. Suddenly, in 2015, a new group that we've never heard of called ISIS, the Islamic State, came to existence. They seem to be fundamentalist Sunnis, but there was, and they want to establish Islamic State, Khilafah. But looking at them, there's no background for them, where they come from. There's no Muslim scholars amongst them. There's no known faces amongst them. Out of the blue, suddenly, and they've got so much weapons, so much money. Where did this come from? You see, every other group you could tell. This is, as I said, Saudi Arabia supporting one group, Qatar supporting group, Turkey supporting group. Who's supporting them? Where they got the money from? Where they got the weapons from? And they were fighting, America and the Arab governments and the Syria and Russia. They were fighting everybody. And we see them when they move from one place to another, and then the open desert. They've got thousands of armed vehicles. Where did they get this from? All of a sudden. Not only that, we think it's a conspiracy against the Muslims. Although they call themselves Muslims and Sunnis, they never ever attacked a Shia town in Syria or in Iraq. Never. Whenever they land in a Sunni town, it gets destroyed by NATO, or by the Western power, or by the Syrian government. So they pass by most of the Sunni towns in Iraq and Syria. Most of them. Within 4 or 5 years, their visits ended up by destroying about 60-70% of the Muslim towns and villages in Iraq and Syria. And then suddenly they disappeared. Where are they? I said, you can never name one Muslim scholar amongst them or who supports them. I mean, they had no support among the Sunnis. Even among the Syrians, they had no support. And then they disappeared. So this is one of the mysteries of the war. They attacked everywhere, those ISIS. They attacked from Indonesia, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan. They bypassed Iran, and then almost every Arab country, and then almost every European country, then America, except 2 states they never touched, Israel and Iran.
Okay.
Those, so one had to say, probably there must be. Then we found out that their leaders live in Iran, right? So it's part of the, anyway. So this is now what's happening now in Syria, okay? The cities were destroyed by first, what we call barrel bombs. That means bomb that weighs about 1 or 2 tons were dropped on towns and cities, on people's heads. The 20 million Sunnis, and then the chemicals, plus rape. God knows how many tens of thousands of Muslim women were raped. Hundreds of thousands of Muslim men, women, and children disappeared in Assad's prison. And we don't know what happened to them. They've been there for 10, 20 years. We don't know, even from his father's time. We don't know whoever go to the prison, usually you never see him again, hardly any. So the Syrians, just 20 million Sunnis, what happened to them? At least 12 million of them either killed, 1 million killed, millions injured, we don't know how many, 6, 7, 8, God knows how many millions
displaced,
became refugees. And a similar number, or again, we don't know exactly because nobody can take the statistics, similar number are displaced within Syria itself. They are in refugee camps in their own country. And then now with COVID there as well, people are thinking, everybody in the world is thinking of getting the vaccinations, and nobody is thinking about the refugees. Do they not need vaccinations as well?
And you know, Turkey was pushing for safe haven on the north of Syria. Is that safe haven? There is no flying zone, everything. And the Russian came in as well. He started bombarding everything. Do they have, there is any safe area for the refugees?
The only safe area for them is when they left the country, really. They are safe in Lebanon. Not safe, quite safe. Because
in Turkey,
the Christians and the Shia attack them all the time. But they are safe, but in terrible position in Jordan. I mean, Jordan is a big country, relatively speaking. They have about 1 million refugees, and they only found the desert to put them there. I don't know why. They put them in the desert where it is very hot in the summer, very cold in the winter. There is no water, no sanitation, right? Why? Why is that? The only country, and then in Lebanon, again, they keep attacking them, they keep kidnapping them, using them as slaves.
What about in Turkey?
That's Turkey, the only country that gave them respect and treated them like brothers and like a human being. They gave them, I've not been to their camps there. They gave them clean, hygienic camps. In their camps, you will find mosque, bathrooms, toilets, roads, heating in the tent, even in each tent. I mean, I remember we're going to a tent there. In the tent, there was a heater, electric plug. It was warm. It was clean, really. And then actually the Turkish, they only kept them in tents for a few months before they moved them to proper houses.
Oh, sure.
They gave them the right to be employed and work there.
In Algeria, for example, there's a lot of Syrians as well, but they mix and they live with amongst people and everything without problem as well.
Yeah, when you say a lot, probably a few thousand, 2,000, 3,000.
Yes, it's not because right? It's far away, yeah.
Far away, the same with Morocco. There's every Arab country there's a few, but
those who fled early, what we say.
In Turkey, there are about 5 million Syrians, right? And then on the borders between, on the Syrian side, there are at least 2-3 million refugees there, right? Oh. I've got some pictures here to share while we are here because I'm almost.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay. Right. Is it clear? Can you see it now? Because I can see it.
Yes, I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, now those people, for example, this year, poor people, look at that. These are those who are trying to cross into Europe. That's on the, what you call it, Greek border, right? And you know, a lot of them, they prefer to be drowned really than facing the Syrian, the Assad's armies,
Yes.
right? Look at these queues, you'll find them typical over the time. And they keep moving from one place to another. It's not that once they moved in Syria from one camp to another, they get bombarded there again. Then they keep on moving, and then they keep on moving. So moving non-stop in Syria, really, the poor guys, they don't know where to go, right? Look at their towns, how they've been destroyed. It's worse than what happened in the Second World War. This is the effect of the chemicals. I said thousands, most, look at from their sizes, you could compare with the size of this boy who's jumping there. They are all children. There are at least probably 1,000 children there, right? This is what happened to beautiful Syrian cities and towns. Look, I mean, is this?
I mean, we can say it was a genocide. It was a crime against humanity. And what you say, it's a genocide, yes.
It was. I mean, this is, again, people take their children, women to the high seas and they get drowned, right? This is their statistics, or the number of people increase all the time, the refugees, non-stop. Unfortunately, this is the situation in Syria now. We pray to Allah that will put an end to their sufferings.
I think you can do a slide. You can do a slideshow. You can do a slideshow. I think just quickly. If you put slideshow, you can do it quickly. I think we can see some pictures. It's good.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Put slideshow. Put slideshow.
I have. Yeah.
So okay. Straight. Put it on from the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. Let's click now. Yes. Go on. Go on. Yeah. Go on.
That is the Syrian thing. Okay.
Go on. Go on. Yeah. MashaAllah. May Allah bless them. MashaAllah. May Allah.
Okay. So this is the situation. Syria, so, but we are Muslims. We have to help as well. We cannot just watch as well.
You know, in this all United Nations, what happened? United Nations and all this.
Well, brother, United Nations helps very little. They always complain they don't have enough funds. There are millions of them. So what they do help. And actually a lot of the help they help, honestly, half of it goes to the governments. The government of Jordan, the government of Lebanon, they steal half of the money that overcome to the refugees. Because they got to go through the governments and they got to bribe the governments. The only government that
Abu Bashir, did the United Nations Security Council pass any resolution regarding Syria?
Brother, I don't follow United Nations resolutions because in the past 70 years, we've never had one good resolution pro-Muslims.
Okay, implemented.
The only resolution that they pass if it is against Muslims. Besiege Iraq, they did. Give Palestine to the Jews, they did. Stop arming the Arab countries, they did. That's it, brother. So we don't follow this resolution. These are all against us. There's nothing positive there. We've never seen any good resolution.
What happened to the Organization for Islamic Congress? Anything in Mu'tamar al-Islami?
Mu'tamar al-Islami, brother, is controlled by Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi Arabians are against the Arab Spring, so they're not going to do anything positive.
The Asian, you know, the Asian, they call Malaysia and all this Indonesia.
Well, they are too far to help. Honestly, they're too far to help.
Therefore, it's just I think now is Turkey who is actually standing for Syria and trying to provide safe haven for the Syrian to return to Syria.
The Syrians, as I said, there are 5 million Syrians in Turkey. They are the only comfortable ones. They're the only one who are living peaceful life, secure life at least.
Therefore, now Syria is in the same situation as Iraq.
Well, that's another talk about Iraq next time. That's another big problem, slightly different. What we'll talk about Iraq next time.
All right. Okay.
Slightly different, but it is as bad.
But the European Union, what is the European Union?
Brother, I told you, European Unions are they will not help a Muslim country to be democratic. They won't, because
what are they afraid of?
They are afraid, brother. They feed on the corruption in the Muslim world. Look, all these Western countries, they look after their interest. We don't blame them. but we blame our people. They look after their interest. Their interest is to have a leader like Sisi, like King Abdullah, like Mubarak. Why? Because those people, they make their countries as a market for the products of the West, as well as a source of influence, and they take their raw materials for almost for free. Why should they replace it with a democratic country that will put question marks? And they can't, brother. I mean,
yes.
just Sisi, the whole Western world is supporting him. Why? Sisi, he goes to France. This is a very poor country, Egypt. He goes to France and he buys weapons for 5 billion euros. Then from France, he flies to Germany, another 5 billion euros, weapons. Well, to fight who? He's not against Israel. He got no enemies. Then he goes to Italy and he buys the same. Then Russia, then America. So this the poorest Arab country is buying every year $20-30 billion worth of weapons, which is useless, not going to be used. Who wants to replace that golden goose? Who wants to replace it?
Market, yes.
Who want to replace them? The same thing. Jordan, etc., the corrupt government, they keep buying things from the West that we don't need, right? And then with more corruption. But the corruption there is killing the third world. In Africa is the same.
Yes, about 200 billion or more every year is actually taken out of Africa, to the banks, you said.
Just look, you bribe one official with $1 million, and then he'll put the country into $100 million debts. This is what's happening. Now Egypt owes, I think, $80 billion. Jordan, small country, owes $40 billion. So where's this money gone? If they spend $40 million in a small country like Jordan, will be as good as Switzerland. Where is it? Poorer people are getting poorer and more debts. So why the Western countries should help? We got to help ourselves.
And Ahmed, you are in Britain, and I am an educationalist myself. In the citizenship, we speak about respect of democracy, respect of the rule of the law. We speak about tolerance. We speak about respect of individual freedoms, respect of people who have different. Yes,
that's
in the West.
So that's double standard. They've got one standard for the West and one standard for the East. So that's here. There is democracy, there is justice. We can't deny that, right? Almost equal opportunity.
Respect of the law.
Well, as I said, this is all for the West, but for
national.
For the West, but they don't. They will not. As I said, they are not going to kill the golden goose. They won't because they're getting petrol. I mean, they've got all our petrol for the past 60-70 years for almost free.
Now in the world, Muslim world now, it's creating what we call inside conflict. I remember in the 80s when I came here, there was the Irish in Northern Ireland, the problem with Britain. And I think I remember a quote from Robert Mitchell, he was a senator. He said, all conflicts are sustained. So therefore, all the conflict we have seen now, I don't think that they are not planned. They are organized strategically, and they are fed with weapons, and they take the money from the poor countries, and those money who should be spent on development of those countries. I always say, the wealth we have got, oil and gold and everything. Do you think that in any economic situation, we will drink the oil? We have to sell it to other people. But why they put this Muslim countries rich in oil and gold, and African, Asian, who are very rich wealth, they put them in wars and conflicts, and they fuel, religious hatred, Islamophobia, which you have talked about, in what happened in Egypt, and it happened in Algeria as well when one party won the election on first round, and Egypt were the most well actually known that there was a free democracy, there was a free election, and Mohammed Morsi, may Allah bless his soul, was elected he couldn't even last for 1 year and a half because of the security and the military. They came around. The idea is when you look at this kind of going, this kind of, I believe it's madness going with Western obsessed with the superiority complex. And the other thing as well is when I go to a school and I speak, we have this society which we are living now is not far from the society in Medina when the Prophet, peace be upon him, was there. And he put the first constitution. Never, ever, the first constitution was based. It was a multiracial, multicultural, multireligious. All those people who are there is not different. It's why somebody said in the Quran, when you read the Quran, there is no dates. History, you write dates. Because in the Quran, if there are conditions, conditions happened, then things happen. Oppression will not last. We know oppression will not last. Now, what we see in America now, almost 500,000 dead, fires, snow, everything. Do you think it comes from nothing? Do you think that is just something? No. Those kind of, they call them between brackets, natural disasters.
Yes.
But America, 500,000, of course, those who passed away, they are most poor people, everything, who have passed away, everything. But as you said, millions. So in France, our during occupation, Algeria, I think people say about 17 or 20% of the population were actually massacred. Up to now, France, they haven't said sorry and give compensation, like Germany is giving compensation to the Zionist state in America because of the Holocaust. And even now we have actually a bill of saying what is taking place in China is a genocide by China against the Uyghurs. They still in the parliament, they discuss it. And Boris Johnson said, genocide is a legal term. You know this? And I sent to my MP the United Nations definition of genocide. And if you just start ticking this, it is happening everywhere where there is conflict. In Egypt, in Syria, in Iraq, and everything. There is a genocide direct towards Europe. Do you think why the West is afraid of political Islam? Why?
Well, I just told you about that earlier. Because political Islam, there's no corruption. As simple as this. And there's no corruption, then they cannot sell us all these useless weapons and for so much price and take our oil for almost for free. That's it. It will be equal. Why they were afraid of China, right? Why they're afraid of China now? There's no corruption there. They liked China before, when it was corrupt before 1949. Before 1949, China was poorer than the Arab countries, right? But when they got their true independence, then they became equal. Look, brother, with all what's happening now, we don't despair. This Arab Spring has started. I know we got some setbacks. Remember, the French Revolution had 10 setbacks before it managed to control France.
Égalité, fraternité, liberté, yeah.
It was 10 setbacks where they lost many times and then they came back. We will come back. We will come back.
And as well here, as well in Britain, Cromwell and the Parliament and everything, and the gunpowder event. Now, brother, because I think we might have to stop now. Yeah. I think the question is now, how do you see the future? How do you see the future?
Well, I'm very optimistic. Because with all what happened, the Arabs did not give up. The Arab Spring, they didn't give up, and Syria didn't give up, and Libya didn't give up, and they haven't given up. Not even in Egypt. It's started. It could take. It's a generation war, right? It will take at least one generation because a lot of people, our people, are still not ready to sacrifice. But it will succeed. Probably not in our time, but it will succeed. And once it succeeds, once and for all, then it will put everything right. And then you will see the Middle East as it was in Andalus, and it was in the 7th or 8th century. It will be a good again. I'm very
And
optimistic.
I always see a big signal was what happened in the Capitol Hill in the 6th of January to United States, which between inverted commas is the capital of democracy. Do you think United States, because it's a superpower, I think we can superpower, it's on the top, although China is overwhelming them in actually in economy and everything. Do you think what is taking place in this, and they are trying to do this within the Muslim countries and third world countries or developing countries, it's going back home, and it will actually people here, because the problem of economics, social justice was an international day for social justice in the world, and there is a big motto, this motto, no justice, no peace. And you believe that this kind of problem we see in the Muslim world and will be actually going back home from those countries who are helping and supporting those conflicts and fueling those wars as well?
Brother, they've got their own social problem. I don't think it's got anything to do with us. They've got racism against the black. They've got the extreme right people now. Their problem are their problems. Let's concentrate on our problem. And if we solve our problems, we don't let them sort their own problems.
And therefore, but what you do think between those Turkey can play a big role in this kind of bringing Muslims together?
Well, if Turkey can develop itself, that's good enough. That's good for everybody.
It can set an example, what we say.
Well, it's good to see one Muslim country is doing well. Alhamdulillah.
Right. Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, peace is what we see for, and therefore we will call for peace forever where we go. And we pray to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to bring peace and security and prosperity to those places. And may Allah help those people who are actually suffering now in the winter and the COVID-19 as well, and help the humanity as a whole to come together and try to solve their problems and stop creating conflicts and wars, because wars are costing lives and costing years of underdevelopment, and poverty as well is killing everybody. So inshallah, we will do it as a part one, because I think there is more to speak about this, and maybe we'll have a discussion about other countries as well, as the dates of the anniversaries comes of this uprising.
Yeah,
before we can concentrate. Before we finish, because a few minutes, in Algeria, what took place, do you think Algeria can come out stronger?
Not only Algeria, the whole Arab world will be liberated from those tyrant leaders, inshallah. All of the Arab world.
Therefore, because the motto they were actually raising is, we want a civil state, not a military state.
Yes, this is what all the Arabs want, really. They all want civil state.
Right, okay.
It will come, inshallah. It will happen.
MashaAllah. May Allah bless you, inshallah. This is Abu Bashir. May Allah subhanallah ta'ala bless you, inshallah. Bless your family. May Allah protect you from his COVID and everybody, inshallah. And may Allah, inshallah, give us another time, inshallah, to have a chat as well. And this is the Arab Spring from Radio Hajj Online anyway. And those who want to listen to us, you just go to www.Radio Hajj Online, go to programs, and you see the sound and the picture of our program. Until we meet again, inshallah, for the Arab Spring show, I say, Subhanakallah wa bihamdik, nashhadu astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, wal 'asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.